Hello, good morning students. Am I audible to all and PPTs are visible? Yes, thank you. Uh, okay, in previous lecture we are seeing multiprocessor organization. This topic, multiprocessor organization, these topics we have studied. Now in this lecture, semantic multiprocessor and clustering, and third one is non-uniform memory access. These topics I will explain, and after that I will explain the superscalar processor in the next lecture, because dependency is there. First of all, multiprocessor is there, then semantic multiprocessor and clustering, and then MA is there, and then superscalar. This topic dependency is there. That's why I'm taking like that topic. Okay. Now, in this lecture, we are going to see the semantic multiprocessor clustering and non-uniform memory access. As we have seen in previous lecture, this diagram, taxonomy of parallel processor architecture. In the parallel processor architecture, I have explained the what do you mean by the parallel processing, pipelining concepts in a parallel processing and multiprocessor architecture of these four types, which is I explained in the yesterday's lecture. Now I'm going to explain this all these topics in this lecture, and then after that, whenever I go for the next topic, in that I will explain this super scalar processor, this vector processor and array processor, that I will explain in the next lecture. So already these topics are covered in that. The processor organization, which is also called as a multiprocessor organization. Here multiple processors are used for the designing the particular processor architecture. Mainly here four types are there. First one is single instruction, single data stream. So that single processor is there, which will be perform the operation on the single instructions, and it is going to generate the output in the form of the single data stream, and which will be stored on the memory, which is called as a SISD. That is a single instruction. Now second architecture is single instructions, multiple data. Here single processor is there. From that, single instruction is generated, which will be given to the processing unit for the performing task, and it is going to generate the multiple data stream result, and which will be stored in the memory. That is the SIMD architecture. Now, next one is multiple instructions, single data stream. In this multiple instructions are provided to the processor, and it is going to generate the single stream. As this architecture is not implemented yet, so the implementation is in on the paper itself. That means it is not implemented yet. Now next type is multiple instructions, multiple data stream. Here multiple processor, multiple instructions are provided, and they are going to generate the data stream. On that, processing unit will perform the task and generate the output in the form of the data stream. That is a multiple instruction, multiple data stream. Now this multiple instruction, multiple data stream, again it is categorized into the two types. First one is called as a shared memory. Here in the shared memory, which is available on this particular processor, and because of that it is called as a tightly coupled with the processor. That means that shared memory is available on the inbuilt on the that particular processor. That's why it is called as a tightly coupled memory. Then next type is called as a distributed memory. That means for each processor, here multiple processors are there. Each processor separate memory is provided, which is distributed memory is used, which is called as, that is not available on the processor, but it is separately available. That's why it is called as a loosely coupled memory. Now again in the shared memory, which is also called as a tight memory, in that again two types are there. First one is called as a symmetric multiprocessor. Symmetric multiprocessor is nothing but that it is going to perform the same types of tasks on the same type of processor. processor configuration is same and it is going to perform the same task. That's why it is called as a semantic multiprocessor, or in short, it is called as a SMP. Now, next type is non-uniform memory access. In short, it is called as a NUMA. This is an example of the tightly coupled memory. All these processor, which is we are going to see in this lecture in the depth. Now, next type in a distributed memory, which is called as a loosely coupled memory. Here, it is categorized categorized into the next type, that is a clustering. That means the multiple processors which is having same capability, which is categorized into parallelly arranged and in a form of the cluster. Same types of processors are arranged, which is also we are going to see in this lecture. That means in this lecture, we are going to see all these processors in the next few slides. Now, moving to the next part. First one is, what do you mean by the tightly coupled microprocessor or multiprocessor? As this MIMD processor diagram, that is a multiple instruction, multiple data stream. Examples is tightly coupled processor, which is used the shared memory concepts. Here, if you see the processor, this is the first processor, this will be a second processor. Like this, n number of processors are there and n number of input devices are connected. In input output device 1, input output device 2, and input output device up to n, or you can say that the 3 or n, anything you can consider. And these processor and input output devices are connected through the interconnection network through the memory element. Here, although so many processors are there, 1 to n processors are there and 1 to n input output devices are there, which is connected through the interconnection network to transmit or receive data of from the main memory or to the main memory. That means this memory, main memory is shared by this processor 1, processor 2 up to processor n. That's why the memory is available on this processor itself, which is tightly coupled. Means this memory is totally available on that particular processor. That's why it is called as a tightly coupled multiprocessor. Here multiple processors are there and single main memory is there, which is shared. That's why it is called as a tightly coupled multiprocessor. All of you understand this? Please put it in chat box. All of you understand tightly coupled multiprocessor? Okay, now moving to the next part. The tightly coupled symmetric multiprocessor. Next type in tightly coupled symmetric multiprocessor is there, and second one is NUMA processor. Here tightly coupled next type is there. Again, it is categorized into symmetric multiprocessor, which is responsible for the communicate via the shared memory. As we have seen in the previous diagram, the shared memory is used, that is the main memory, and it will be communicated through the interconnection network, which is shown in the previous diagram. Then example of this tightly coupled memory is symmetric multiprocessor. In this symmetric multiprocessor, it is going to share a single memory or pool of memories there, which is shared by the multiple processor. Then the shared are used to access the data from memory to the processor. Share buses are used, that is through the interconnection network only. Then memory access time to given area of memory is approximately same for the each processor. That means the share memory is located in the same location, so that if you want to access data from this main memory to processor 1, processor 2 up to processor n, to access the data from main memory to each processor, access time is same, which is according to this diagram. Now, next one is next type of tightly coupled processor is NUMA, which long form is non-uniform memory access. Here, the uniformly given to the processor, which is shared memory, but it is non-uniformly given. In previous example, symmetric multiprocessor, memory is given uniformly to each processor. But here, non-uniformly memory is given. That's why name is given as a non-uniform access. Now, the access time to different region of memory is different because of the non-uniform memory scattered in the uh, architecture. Now, next one is whenever we are using this first type symmetric multiprocessor, which is we have given as a name SMP. In short, it is called as a symmetric multiprocessor SMP. This multiprocessor, symmetric multiprocessor, is having two or more similar processors are there, and which will be compatible to the capacity, whatever capacity that multiprocessor is having, it is compatible to the that particular capacity. Processor is going to share the same memory and IO devices, which is also shown in the previous diagram. A processor 1 to up to n processors are there, and each processor is having its input output devices. Now processors are connected by the bus or other internal connections. Here in that diagram, which is mentioned that the interconnection network, that is the interconnection, internal connection will be made with the help of the interconnection network for the each processor by the bus with the help of the IO buses, that is input output buses. Now next one is memory access time is approximately the same for each processor, because each processor is allocated the shared memory and which is of the same distance. So and say each processor is having the comparatively all are having the same capacity. That's why the access time for the data element from the memory is same for the each processor. That is a work, you can say that the working of the symmetric multiprocessor. If the all processors are share access to the IO devices, either they can do through the same channel or they can use the different channel for the giving the different paths on the same devices. It may be happen for the whenever you are using the processor shared to the IO devices. That is going to happen in terms of the input output devices. But whenever all processors can perform the same function, for example, although this is a metric, so system will be controlled by the integrated operating inbuilt integrated operating system is that, and which is going to provide the interaction between the processor and interaction at the job, task or file data elements. It can be done in terms of that. So that is a related to the symmetric multiprocessor. Any doubt in this symmetric multiprocessor? Any doubt? Symmetric multiprocessor? No, okay. Now moving to the next part. Now the what are the advantage of symmetric multiprocessor? First one is performance. If some work can be done in parallel, so performance is definitely good for the multiprocessor. If the work is not done parallelly, it is serial, then performance is degraded. But here symmetric multiprocessors are there. Each processor is having same performance and the same configuration is there. So performance is same for the all, and it will be done the parallel. So automatically performance of the symmetric multiprocessor is good. Now second advantage is availability. Since all the processor can perform the same function, or any failure of single processor does not halt the system. That means the there are n number of processors which is shown there. P1 processor, P2 processors are there like this. Okay, n number of processors are there and they are performing same task. For example, you are given the array of 5 elements, which is we are going to perform the addition of the array for the P1 processor, 1, 2, 3, and up to n processors. Same task is given. So if, for example, P3 processor, the in P3 processor fault is occur. It is going to failure because of some technical reason. Then it doesn't affect on the remaining processor because same task is given to the different processor and they are going to definitely generate the result. So it is not going to stop that particular system to uh, work for the some certain condition. That is nothing but the availability. Now next advantage is incremental growth. Here a user can enhance the performance by adding additional processor. For example, here P1, P2, P3, Pn processors are there. For example, n is having the value, if I'm saying that the 7, so 7 processors are there and I need to increase the number of processor, I can increase. For example, I need to add again the 5 processors in that. If I'm adding the 5 processor, it becomes a 12 processors. Now, meaning of this is that if as a user, initially it is a 5 processors, sorry, 7 processors are there, and I want to add the additional processor to increase the performance or to check the performance of the system. So that I have added the 5 more processor there, it becomes a 12 processor, and then I will check the performance of the systems whether it is giving same or it will be give you good performance. That means to analyze the performance of the system, that is nothing but to enhance the performance by the adding additional processor, which can be done by the particular user. That is called as the incremental growth of the symmetric multiprocessor system. Now next advantage is scaling. The vendor can offer the range of product based on the number of processor. For example, the scaling is nothing but initially if I'm having the 7 processor, okay, it is of the cost, for example, 50,000. For example, I'm giving the example. Now, then I am adding the 5 more processors. I cannot directly add as a user, so I have to take the this facility from the manufacturer or who is the vendor. From there I have to take the that they have to give me a that inbuilt product in the 7 processor plus 5 processor. It should be configured. All this should be done, and then 12 processor product, final product should be issued to me by the particular vendor or manufacturer. After designing that particular product, I need to see the number of processor it is offering. Means, for example, I'm having the name of processor, that is a symmetric processor, which is having the initial of 7, but in that configuration they have may say that the up to 10 only you can add the if you want to perform the add-on processor capacity, it will be offer only up to 10, but I am saying that I want the 5 processor more, so it is not possible. Means 7 plus 3, only 10 processor you can add. Initially it is having 7, which is a given of 50,000 cost, but I need to add the more processor, but I am saying that I want to add the 5 processor, so it is actually having the capacity up to 10. Means 10 minus is 3, so I can add at max 3 processor to depending upon the product range I can offer there, and then perform the will be a advantage of symmetric multiprocessor. Any doubts in the advantages of symmetric processor? Student, any doubt? Okay. Now I will move to the next part. Next type is loosely coupled processor. In that loosely coupled processor, example is given as a cluster. In that itself, loosely coupled, if you observe that here, it is given that the loosely coupled is distributed memory is used. Shravan, please switch off your mic. Roll number 91. 1 minute. PPTs are visible now. I muted all. Please unmute yourself until you are having any question. Then only you can unmute. Otherwise, do not unmute. Voice is echoing. Now, after seeing the tightly couple, we go for the loosely couple memory, and that is also second type of example of the MIMD architecture. That is a multiple instruction, multiple data processor. In this loosely coupled memory, the processor is there. For example, this will be a processor, which is a mention here. In that processor itself, that memory, as we have seen that in that, like this, n number of processors are there. N number of processors are provided. For example, 6 processor, which is I have provided 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there each processor is having the separate memory. This is M. This is separate memory. This processor is also having separate memory. Each processor is having the separate memory, which is nothing but the loosely coupled multiprocessor. That means how many processors are there, that many memories are there, and that memories are not shared. It is distributed. This is means each processor is having its own memory, but it is not available on that processor. It is a separately available. In a previous example, tightly coupled processor, each processor is having the number of processors are there, and that memory is shared memory, which will be shared by the n number of processor. But here n number of processors are there, but for each processor separate memory is provided. That is called as a loosely coupled processor. An example is clustering. Now, whenever we are using the loosely coupled memory, the collection of independent uniprocessors or symmetric multiprocessors are used for that purposes also. But in that, interconnection will be done with the help of the clustering. Means same type of the processor comes in the same cluster, and different types are goes to the different clusters. Like this, processing will be done. Means, for example, if you may say that the P1 processor is there, which is having the capacity of 2 GB data processing. Like this, P1, P2 processors are there. Only these two processors are there. So, which will be kept in the one category, which is nothing but the called as a cluster. Cluster is nothing but the same types of tasks or processors we can club together, or same type of data elements we can club together. Or it may be happen P3 and P6 is having same capacity. So they will be kept in the next category. Like this is going to categorize for the number depending upon the processor speed, capacity, and data handling. The different categories are done through the interconnected form, that is called as a clustering. Now, whenever cluster is going to form, they are going to communicate via the fixed path or the network connection. And they may be communicated through the fixed path, the network connections. They are going to connect to each other. That will be done in a loosely couple. That is a clustering configuration. Now, in a cluster configuration, mainly there are two types of configurations are there. First one is standby server, no shared disk, and second one is with shared disk. Here, P1, P2, this is P1, processor 1, P means processor. There are two processors are there. M means memory. IO means input output devices 1 and input output devices 2 for the second processor. Like this same here for the another side. So for example, this will be a source side cluster form configuration, and this will be a destination side cluster configuration. Whenever this source and destination cluster configuration you need to form, if you observe this, the processor is there, so it comes in the same category, although it is having the same symmetric multiprocessor capacity, so it comes under the same category. Here, IO processor input output devices are connected through the high speed message link to transmit the data, and the second IO devices is connected to the disk. Here, disk is separately provided for the source side as well as the destination side. That means they are not using the shared disk, but in clustering is an example of loosely couple multi-processor configuration. That's why each processor or each, this will be total block is called as the total one process, which is a combination of the multiple processor which will going to perform the multi-processing task. So it is having the separate memory for the source side and destination side separate memory. So there is no disk sharing is there. This will be a disk, and this disk is not shared. Even memory for each processor, separate memory is provided for the storing the data in the main memory. That is a cluster configuration which is used for the standby server with the no shared disk. Now next thing is that cluster configuration with the shared disk. Here, as we have seen in that previous example, the one IO devices are extra connected to the, as compared to the previous example, one extra IO devices are connected. That is shown here. Then the between the source IO devices and destination IO devices, high speed data message link is provided. But here, instead of that, shared disk is used, but that shared disk is handled with the help of this RAID, RAID. Long form of this RAID is redundant array of inexpensive disks. Long form of RAID, that is a disk where it will be used for the data redundancy. First advantage of this RAID model is that provide a data redundancy. Second one is it is going to improve the performance of the system. Now, as I said that the RAD redundant array of inexpensive disks responsible for the reducing the data redundancy and improve the performance of the system. For that purposes it is used. Mayur Shivarkar, please switch off your mic. Mayur, 72 roll number.
कटिंग मारायचं दरवर्षी त्यांना नाही जाणार मुलं येऊन गेली आता एक वर्ष पहिल्या वर्षी ना कटिंग मारायचं पुढल्या वर्षी उन्हाळा संपला पावसाळा लागला की लगेच कटिंग मारायचं
आता आपण आणलं ते 3 कुंड्या त्याच्या कुंड्या
1 minute student. Student please. Student, please, number of times I told you, whenever you are attending the lecture, please switch off your mic. Most of the students purposefully keeping, I don't know, but they are keeping the mic on, and all conversations of their home is going to listen here. It should not be happen. Even I am at home, and are you hearing anything? It should not be happen. Please remember these things. So it will be break the sequence, whatever I am telling to you. Okay, in previous example, which is has explained that the cluster configuration of the no share disk, here disk is shared with the help of this RAID model. Also, the one extra IO devices are connected here. You can say here also. So, and previously high speed message link is down, but it will be given to the up in this diagram. That is the difference between the shared disk and without shared disk cluster configuration. As I said that this is you going to use the RAD model. RAD is nothing but the long form is redundant array of inexpensive disks. Why this disk type is used? For the sharing the disk or cluster configuration. Share this between the two clusters of the source and destination cluster should be shared each other information through the disk sharing facility, and which will be provided with the help of this RAD model. And because of that, what is going to two advantages are occur. First thing is that we will data redundancy will be done. That means the from the source side whatever data is there, and on destination side whatever data is there, it will be checked in the through with the help of this RAD model, and then only it is going to the particular processors share disk for the storing. So it is going to maintain the integrity. Duplication will be avoided. Data redundancy means it will be data redundancy will be avoided. And second thing is it will be improve the performance of the system. That is the working of the uh, cluster configuration of shared memory. Any doubt in this cluster configuration of the shared memory and non-shared memory? Any doubt? Student, any doubt? Okay. Now 57 roll number.
57 roll number.
Now, next one is cluster configuration, which is used for the shared memory and non-shared memory. Now, first one is passive standby. Here, passive standby means the clustering is not going to use by the, it will be in a passive mode and it is in standby. That is the first configuration. Configuration is active secondary. Third one is separate server. Fourth one is server connected to the disk, and fifth one is server shared disk. Like this clustering configurations are used for the different purposes. But here I have explained only two. That means the whenever two clusters are there, in one is passive and one is active, like this configuration can be done, or both are passive, both are active, or separate server should be provided, or server is provided with the separate hard disk for the backup also provided. Then next one is server with the shared disk of the source as well as destination, like this facility is also provided, which is I will explain with the help of the previous PPT itself. Here as I explained that the first one is a passive or active. First two types are there. For example, here I'm saying that this will be a passive uh, side clustering. So this will be a active becomes. Okay. Whenever this is active, then this activeness is finished. I need to make it, this is passive cluster and this will be a active cluster. Or it may be happen, this is passive and this is a active. Like this anything can be done, or both are active. Like this configurations is also allowed. That is the first two types. That is a passive standby, active standby, or active server. Now third type is the server shared memory. On the this these both the clusterings are used the shared memory concept with the help of this RAD model, and which is connected to the server. So on that server, separate memory unit is provided for these both the cluster, that memory unit. Either it may be a shared or without shared memory. That is a fourth and fifth type, which is nothing but the here, which is mentioned here. The server connected to the disk, or server shared disk, or separate server will be provided to the for the each cluster. Like these configurations we can make for the cluster configurations of the loosely coupled multiprocessor system. Now, next one is whenever we are dealing with this multiprocessor configurations with the help of the clustering, some operating system issues are arises in the whenever we are form the clusters. Whenever we are forming the cluster configurations with the cluster configurations of 5 types, mainly there are 2 types of operating systems issues are arises. First one is called as a failure management, and second one is load balancing. These are the 2 issues which is arises. So first one is failure management is occur because of the high availability of the resources. So it is not possible to monitor each and every device. Because of that, we are not able to uh, manage that failure or fail over or fail back. Whenever system is working, that time failover is occur, then failback is nothing but after failing that system is should be go to the that particular location. Clustering is going to form with the multiprocessor system. Now next one is when we can use these things, when we can use the clustering concept and when we can use the symmetric multiprocessor, because clustering is example of the tightly coupled processor, and SMP is SMP is an example of are there, and it is going to form the cluster. So for separate cluster, separate memory is allocated for the each cluster, and it is very difficult to manage that clustering processor, each processor's memory. So it is difficult. That is a only I have written for the SMP. So opposite of the SMP is clustering. Now next symmetric multiprocessor takes less physical space and less power. Why? Because in a symmetric multiprocessor, on that processor itself, memory is provided as a shared memory. So physically, it will be required a less space and less power is required. Do not need to connect the n number of devices. Less number of devices we need to connect. That's why it will be required a less power. But if you compare the cluster based loosely coupled multiprocessor, in that depending upon the number of clusters, each cluster we need to provide a different power supply as well for the clusters as well as the memory device. Separate power supply is required. So memory required is more. Memory space also or physical space also required is more for the clustering, as well as the power supply required is also more for the clustering, because each cluster we need to provide a power supply. And if each cluster is having the separate memory element, so physical space of each clusters will be increases. That's why physical space is more required and less more power is required for the clustering. Now next difference is that the SMP establish and stable the technology. So here symmetric multiprocessor is established easily, but it is it is using this stable technology. But the clustering, which will be used for the depending upon the user's requirement, it is a almost dynamic. So technologies are not stable and it will is not easy to establish easily. That is a difference between the clustering and SMP. Now next difference is that the clusters are better for incremental and absolute scalability. Here, if you want to use the increase the multiple processor according to its functionality, we need to add the number of clusters, number of processors in the cluster is easily added, which is called as the incremental, and which will be provided absolute scalability. Means we can use the using the increasing the number of clusters, you can increase the number of processor n number of times. So it is having that capacity to increase the number of processor as well as the large scale. We can increase that with the help of the capacity. It is possible in the clustering because it's a loosely coupled. But in the SMP, that is a which is an example of tightly coupled systems where the processor and memories are tightly coupled. Whenever we are increasing the number of processor, again we have to make the connection between processor to shared memory, or we have to see the compatibility of the processor to memory, whether it will be a adopt that particular system or not. Then it will be a not providing incremental capacity, as well as we cannot increase the on the large scale for the SMP. It is not. Now, next advantage of clustering is that clusters are better for the availability. Clusters, we can easily access the cluster. Means, for example, if you are having the cluster 1, C1, C2, like these clusters are there, and each cluster is having 100 processors are there, and 100 memory elements are there, 100 processors are there, which can be easily available to access for the user. For example, 1 to 100 is in C1 cluster, 100 to 200 in the second cluster. Like this, abilities are there, or we can increase the number of clusters. So it is easily available and access for the user. But in the SMP, it is very difficult to find out the symmetric multiprocessor through which we can access that which particular processor is working or not. It is very difficult. All of you understand the difference between the clustering processor and SMP processors? All of you understand the difference between the loosely and tightly coupled processor, or example of symmetric multiprocessor and clustering? Okay, now moving to the next example of the loosely coupled processor. Second example, that is a non-uniform memory access. In the MIMD architecture, tightly coupled memory example we have seen the SMP, and second one is NUMI. Now, NUMI is nothing but the non-uniform memory access, where memory is given non-uniformly and which is a shared memory. So uniform memory access is responsible for the what are the tasks it is going to perform. First thing is that all processor has access to all parts of the memory. It is very easy in uniform memory access. That will be advantage, and then I will explain non-uniform. This is available for the uniform memory access. So next one is access time to all regions of the memory is same, and access time by the all processors are same. This uniform memory access is nothing but the SMP, that is a tightly coupled memory multiprocessor architecture, that is symmetric multiprocessor architecture example. And non-uniform memory access example is NUMA, this processor where memory is uniformly given to the processor. Now, in that, all processor have access to all memory using load and load facility. Then access time, depending on the region of the memory being accessed, which type of memory region we are accessed, depending upon that, access time will be decided for the NUMA processor. Next thing is that different processors access the different region of the memory at the different speed. It is possible in a non-uniform memory access. Now, whenever we are using this non-uniform memory access, it is going to occur the problem of cache coherence in the NUMI. What do you mean by this cache coherence? And it will be maintained in the memory. That means the multiple processors are there. Either the first of all processor should be perform the read operation. After reading, they can perform the write operation. But at a time, only one processor can do this. Means one processor is reading that time on the same memory region. You are performing writing operation, it is allowed. But one processor is writing data and same time you are performing reading, it is not allowed. That is a cache coherence. Now next, this is a NUMA organization. Here, that is a non-uniform memory access. Processor 1, processor 2, processor 3, up to processor N's are there. For here in this architecture, they are going to provide the two-level cache memory. Here, first level cache memory is available, L level cache is available inbuilt on that particular processor, which is mentioned with the help of this block on the each processor. And L2 cache level memory is provided after that, like this on the each processor. And for the cache memory is connected through the system bus, and then main memory, it goes to the main memory. Then through the system bus, IO devices are both the processors, IO devices are connected to the interconnection network to the next processor also. You may say that this will be a server and this will be a remaining will be a client. Like this architecture also it is going to follow, or all these three processors are in the same regions. Means these are the three parts which is used for the and which is connected through the interconnection network. Three clusters are going to maintain for the each processor. That is NUMA organization, which will be done here. Now, after seeing these organizations, the what are the advantages and disadvantages of these non-uniform memory access, which is I am going to explain here, which is nothing but the pros and cons of the NUMA, which is mentioned here, pros and cons. That is the advantage and disadvantage. First one is the NUMA is effective performance at the high level of parallelism than the SAMP. Here, NUMA is used for the high performance computing, like where we require a higher parallelism is required, then we can use there. But less number of parallelism is required, that time SMP is used. Now, that is the advantage of NUMA. Then next one is non-transparently like SMP. Here SMP, symmetric multiprocessor is transparent, that the how many processors are there and each processor is going to shared by the memory. But NUMA, there is no transparency that which processor is going to use the which memory element, which is not shown, or how much percentage of memory region is added by that particular processor, which is not going to highlighted while performing the any task. So that will be a disadvantages of the NUMA, non-transparency of the accessing the data. Last one, next one is whenever we are needed any type of the software changes in the NUMA, it is easily possible in the NUMA, but in SMP it is not possible. Now next one is next advantage is that NUMA is availability is high, because in a today's multiprocessor system where high level parallelism is achieved, where NUMA is used. Any doubt in this? Any topics you need to repeat or which is not understand, please tell me. Okay. No one is having any doubt. Okay. Now, today's lecture, I had just explained the previous symmetric multiprocessor, that is SMP, which is I have explained. In SMP is the example of tightly coupled processor, then loosely coupled processor example clustering, which is I explained. Again, in the tightly coupled processor example is NUMA, which is just now I explained. These topics are covered. Now in next lecture, I am going to explain the superscalar processor, which will be required of 1 hour to explain. And then after that, I will take the remaining topics in this sequence, because first of all, I have explained this one in the yesterday's lecture. And now from onwards, I will take the according to sequence only, because topic dependency is there. That's why I shuffled a little bit second topic first, and then third, fourth, and then go to the first. Any doubt? Any doubt, students? Okay, I will upload PPT on the Google Classroom. If you are having any doubt, please tell me. Otherwise, I will end the session.